Hello, everyone. This is a new workshop we have available, which will show you the capabilities of Oracle JSON SODA, simple Oracle document access features. So you can use Oracle database as a JSON document store. This workshop is available on LiveLabs. You can search for it and you will get to a page looking like this. I have now on my screen. And you will be asked to make a reservation. If you don't know how to get to this workshop, you can enroll maybe to one of our events and we will give you access to the environment. So once you have access to this environment, you will click Reserve Workshop on LiveLabs. And it will ask for your details. You'll have to log in using your Oracle account, Oracle Technology Network account. You should use Start Workshop Now, specifying your time zone here, and submit the reservation. This is the only thing you have to do. And you receive the reservation details in your email account, the email address you specified when you created the reservation. You can click View My Reservations, and then you will see the reservation list for all workshops you have reserved with LiveLabs. And it will show the status, the current status of the reservation. Now, for example, this reservation is in pending creation. Usually you can, normally you can refresh this page to get more details about the reservation. And then once refreshed, the page will give you the time, approximate time until you will be able to access your environment. Once the environment is prepared and available, you can again refresh the page here to check the preparation of the environment. You'll be able to access the workshops. So click Launch Workshop. And this is the information you will receive about your reservation. At this point, you can copy the password. You can click on this button. It is copied in your clipboard and click Launch Console. The username is already written in your console login screen, and you just need to paste the password you have copied from that web page, and then it asks to change the password. I'm going to paste the same password as current and new password in all fields, all 3 fields. And I'm going to click Save in the password. The console was opened in a new browser tab, so I can go back to my previous tab and get the data from my environment here. I have to make sure that this is the username, and also I have to make sure the compartment in which I prepare my resources for the workshop execution. The compartment with the ID 15400. In this case, the first thing to do is to open the workshop manual, workshop lab manual. You have a lab manual with the information I just showed you on how to connect to the environment down below. This is the way to connect to the environment. You can open it also in a new tab, and then there is a link to the workshop lab for your own environment down below at the bottom of the page. You can click open the workshop instructions in a new tab, and this is the new tab it just opened. These instructions are prepared for the always free or your own environment. So if you have an always free or a trial account, you can run this workshop on your trial account. If you don't have a trial account, then we will provide the environment, and in the case for our events, we will give you the access to one environment. In the trail account, there are more steps you have to perform. This is the way to get a trial account, and this is the way to create the SSH keys, and then to create the development environment. You have to create a network and all the resources. In the environments we provide for our events, the account is already created, and you just need to create the resources. The only resource which is already created for you is the virtual cloud network, the VCN. And the first task is to verify the virtual cloud network VCN details. You can go here to the Cloud Console, and under networking, click virtual cloud networks. And now you are supposed to pick the correct compartment. So the compartment I'm supposed to connect to is 15400, the one I received in my workshop details. And this is the VCN which is already created for this environment by the LiveLabs preparation scripts, which are completely automated. You can check the details of the VCN, the subnets, the security lists, ingress rules, and egress rules. I'm not going to go through all this. So we advise you to follow the lab guide and go through all the steps. Now, I'm going to skip some of the steps because I've done it already multiple times. I created this lab guide, and I'm not going to go through all of them just to save some time. I'm going to go to create the compute instance. For the compute instance, I need to specify the Oracle Cloud Developer image. I'm going to my compute nodes, compute instances. And here I'm going to say create instance. I can give it a name. You can call it client VM, for example, exactly like in the lab guide. The compartment is the correct one. You can select the availability domain. The shape here is the one we have to change. No, not the shape, the image, sorry. The image is the one we have to change. So here we have to select Oracle images. Now it is loading. From Oracle images, you need to move this icon up and click the next page. And here we have the Oracle Cloud Developer image. Select it, go down. Click the agreement, select image. I'm gonna leave you can leave the default shape, I think, but we advise you to change the shape to the VM standard 2.1. Let's change the shape to a virtual machine Intel VM standards 2.1. This is the shape we have available for this environment. Select shape. In your own tenancy, you can select the shape you want. This is a provided tenancy, and I have to use the shape which is specified in the lab guide. I'm gonna use the existing VCN, the public subnet, and I'm gonna assign a public IP address, and I'm gonna generate a key pair. You should save the private key. This is the one you should use. Okay, I'm gonna save it. The public is not important. And I click create. So now the compute node is provisioning. It is that easy to provision a compute node. And the next step is to provision, to connect to the compute node. And we are supposed to configure this compute node. I'm going to use my SSH connection. To the compute node. Let me see if it has been provisioned. Yeah, it is running. We have here the public IP address we'll have to use for the SSH connectivity. So the next step is to configure this compute node with the development environment for our Python project. I'm going to connect to the compute node. So I'm going to say SSH -I. I'm going to compress the connection, and then I'm going to specify the key. SSH key. Let me. I don't think I copied the name of the key. No, let me. The name of my key is SSH key, and then I'm going to forward the port 3389. And then I'm going to specify my public IP address for my compute node. Yes. I need to change the now I'm connected to my client VM compute node with OPC user. This is the default user we have on our compute machine here running on Oracle Cloud. The next step is to, this is for PuTTY. I'm going to skip the steps for PuTTY because this is for Windows. So the next step is to make myself root user, and to create a file for the configuration. In this file, I'm going to copy and paste the commands for my configuration script. And I'm going to save it. And then I'm going to say change mode. I'm going to make it executable. And I'm going to run it. This script will configure all the packages and will prepare the remote desktop environment on this compute node with Python libraries and all the components I need for my development for this project I'm creating with Python. So I'm going to create a simple application using simple Oracle Document Access, SODA for Python. This application requires some packages and requires some libraries in Python, which I'm currently installing on my compute node. The preparation script was executed successfully. And at this point, I have all I need on my compute node, including the remote desktop environment available for Oracle user. As I created a tunnel in my SSH connection, I can use this tunnel to connect to this remote desktop environment because the port is not publicly open. I need to use the local host on my Microsoft remote desktop. I can try to do it right now. I'm launching remote desktop on my machine to check the connectivity. It's not running. Let's see what happens. And I need to provide this. Okay, now it is running. So if you don't have a connection already here for localhost, this is the connection I'm using, localhost Oracle. The user is Oracle. And for this user, I think I already specified the password. Let me create a new connection just to show you how it works. Add PC and local host. I'm going to say ask when required, display the default devices, clipboard. I need clipboard integration, which is very useful to copy paste from your laptop to the remote desktop connection, and folders. No folders are, and say add. Let me say here local host, no, just local host, and say add. So this is the new one. Let me open it. Username Oracle, and the password, I'm going to copy it from here into remote desktop, continue. It is asking me, so this is the remote desktop environment here. It is asking me to, let me share my desktop, my entire desktop now. It is asking me to specify the language for my environment. The keyboard, you should select your keyboard here. I have a traditional English US keyboard. Location off. I'm going to skip the connection to my account and start using the Linux server. Dismiss. I'm going to close this one. And now I am at the point where I can launch my environment and my workshop lab guide on the remote desktop. I'm going to close this one. I'm going to copy the link on my remote desktop environment here. And this is the step I'm supposed to perform right now. Let me open a new browser with the workshop details. Copy link. Use the second tab. Okay, it doesn't work. This is blocked. I don't know why. Anyways, now it seems to work. And this is the lab environment. I'm going to copy the password from here to here, sign in. You can click save. Now I have everything I need on my remote desktop connection. This is the Linux environment of the remote desktop connection to the Linux environment, which is running on the compute node I just created on Oracle Cloud. This is the compute node here, and I also connected, I created this connection on this compute node to the Oracle Cloud Console, so I can manage this compute node from within the session I have opened with the Oracle user. The only thing you have to do, you have to pick the correct compartment here. And this is a LiveLabs, and it's 15400. And this is the compute node on which I'm currently running my my environment. Now I'm supposed to provision an autonomous JSON database. This is the name of the database. So I go back to my compute node, my Cloud Console, and here I click Oracle Database, Autonomous JSON Database. I have no databases right now in this environment, and I say create autonomous database. The compartment is the one I have already selected. The database name doesn't need to have a hyphen. The workload is JSON, deployment shared infrastructure. Okay, let me take it easy. The version is 19C. I'm using one CPU with auto scaling, 1 terabyte of storage, credentials. I'm going to use the same credentials or the one which is specified here in the lab guide, just to make it simpler in order to follow the lab guide with the details I have in the lab guide. And then I specify security access from everywhere, license included, and I can specify an email address for notifications. I'm not going to do I don't need notifications. I can save it. Once it is provisioned, we will connect to the autonomous database and we will open Application Express using the same password. So this is why I use the password I have in the lab guide. You can use your own password, but you have to remember it. And in this case, I'm going to create a new workspace in Apex. It takes just 1 minute to provision this autonomous JSON database. And the Apex environment is here under Tools on the second tab after the autonomous database information. In Tools, we will be able to access the Apex environment, Application Express. Now the database is available. I'm opening the Apex environment. It takes a little bit of a few seconds or maybe a couple of minutes until everything is up and running. All the services are up and running. If you experience any delays at the beginning, this is normal. I can use the password. I think it's already in my clipboard. And now I have to create a new workspace. Database user, you have to follow the details in the lab guide. So I'm going to use database user demo, workspace name demo, and the password, which is the same one. The database user demo, password, I'm going to paste it, and create workspace. Again, we go back. And now I have the Apex workspace created. I just need to log out from the administration page. I'm going to click sign out here. I'm going to click return to sign in page. And specify demo, Control V, sign in, save. This is the user demo. I can use the SQL Workshop object browser just to check if there are any objects in this schema. So the Application Express workspace will create automatically a new schema in my database. The name of the schema is demo. So you can see there are no tables, and you can also check views or any other objects in your schema. There is nothing in your schema right now. Now I'm gonna also use database actions. Preferences allow pop-ups. In order to access the SQL Developer Web, which is available under database actions. It is already specified here. The user is admin and the password is the same. But as I'm now already connected, I don't have to specify anything. So here I'm going to run SQL on my database. There is a guide to show you some of the features of database actions. At this point, I'm going to enable my demo user account, my demo schema, to be able to connect to database actions and to access the features under this tools. The feature I'm particularly interested in is I'm going to skip this, is the JSON features. I'm going to show you the JSON features in a second. So these are the features I need the demo user to connect to and to be able to use JSON and REST. But mostly JSON for this workshop in particular. So in order to enable the demo user, I have to execute this code, which is available in documentation. I'm going to say execute script. And the procedure has been executed successfully. Now I can connect to database actions with the demo user. For example, if I do sign out and I do sign in, the username demo, and I already have the password saved. Click sign in. Demo user, this is not an administrative user like the admin, has fewer options. You can see here on the screen. Maybe you have noticed I have more options for the admin user. However, I'm interested in the REST and JSON. Let me see if I have JSON. SQL, and where is JSON? This is interesting. Okay, SQL. Well, I found where my JSON features in database actions are, and I'm supposed to follow the lab guide, actually, not to do it from my memory, because my memory is failing many times. So just go back to the lab guide. I'm just signed out from my demo account on database services, database actions. And if you go a little bit lower in the lab guide, after I give demo user permissions to access database actions, all the tools, I also need to grant a privilege or a role to my demo user account. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going not to Application Express, to the database actions link. I'm going to connect again as admin user. The password is already saved in my demo for my demo user, and I'm going to use the same one because it's similar. It's exactly the same password. Going back to SQL, where I provisioned, I gave privileges to access the database actions. I'm going to provide the Soda app privileges to my demo user account. I'm going to run this grant command here. I just copied from the user guide, from the lab guide. Once this command is executed, I'm going to connect again as demo user with the demo user credentials, and I'm going to check. So the grant has been successful. Now I'm going to sign out, sign back in. I'm going to connect now as demo. The password has been saved. I just saved the password in the previous session, and voila, now I have the JSON features. If you provide this role, if you grant this role, Soda app to demo user, and you still don't see the JSON features in your database actions, maybe you should log out and log in again, because there are some there is some cache in the web browser which may not refresh, and this is why you don't see the features, but it's supposed to be working. So now I have access to my JSON collections as demo user in database actions. And if I click here, I also can see the JSON feature here, the JSON management capabilities under development here. And this is the one I just opened right now. I have no JSON collections at this point. The database is completely empty. And now let's go back to the manual. The next step is to provision a collection on my on a Mongo database. I'm going to use Oracle. I'm going to use the Mongo Cloud, MongoDB Cloud, to create an account. I already have one. I'm connected using my Google account, which is perfectly fine. You can use, I think, Facebook and Google to access MongoDB Cloud and to create clusters and collections there. I'm going to switch back to my browser. So this is the time remaining now for the workshop. You can see it here. This is the connection details for my environment, and here I also have the link to the lab guide I just opened at the beginning of this session. I'm going to click on Deploy Atlas Document Store to go to this task. So I'm going to click on the link here, cloudmongodb.com. You have to follow the instructions here. It gives you some information about how to navigate the MongoDB Cloud, how to specify and create your account, and specify the underneath cloud you want to use. There are multiple options there. You will see when you create your first cluster, your first database on MongoDB Cloud, you will have to follow a wizard. And once the database and the cluster is created, which in my case is already created, you will have this view here. I didn't change the name of the cluster. The default name is cluster 0. So I'm going to click on it. I already deployed the sample collections. You can see the overview of the cluster, the metrics. My cluster is running on Azure, Microsoft Azure Cloud in the Netherlands. And under collections, you will be able to deploy the sample collections. I already have deployed here. You can see the sample collections just to have an idea about how JSON documents are stored in MongoDB. And in the lab guide, it says you have to create a database user. I already did. I have my Mongo user with the same password for this workshop. This is the user we're going to use only for this lab exercises. So the password, it can be exactly the same as in the lab guide. You're going to delete this user after when you finish. And then you will also save the details and the connection details in your notes. I'm going to create a new collection here for my or a new database for my labs. So I need to click create database and name it simple database. Let me go here, create a database, enter the database name, simple database. And the collection, I'm going to call it simple collection. And I'm going to click create. This is the database and the collection. It's completely empty. There are no documents. You can see you can insert documents, but normally we're going to leave it completely empty because we're going to use this simple database and simple collection during the labs. the user and the database and the collection will be used in the lab execution in the next part of the lab. For this guide here is lab number 3, build the Python application. If you're following the simple guide here on the virtual desktop connection, is lab number 2, build Python application using autonomous JSON database. And this is it. Thank you very much.